You're live.
We're live!
We're live? Really?
We're alive?
Okay, hello.
Howdy, folks. Well, it's Friday.
Yep, and you all know what that means.
We're going fishing.
Tommy is.
Tommy's going fishing. That sounds nice.
We're going to make a fly rod case today.
I'm super excited. So, Denny, this is yours for your really long, fancy fly rod.
Yeah, this is one for a two-piece fly rod. A lot of people have four-piece fly rods, and that's what we're going to do today. But I did this one I figure if I'm going to show you guys how to do something, I probably ought to try it myself
He's
first.
gonna mess up a few times on his own time, so that he can mess up less here.
And we will make a couple of changes on the one that we're going to make today from what I did on this one.
I don't think you've put any holes in your strap yet.
Well, because I don't have the end cap done yet.
Oh.
It needs to be.
Because that's not till next week, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. Today we're going to practice on just making the tube.
Okay.
And what we're going to make this one will fit a 4-piece 9-foot fly rod.
Yeah, what is this, like a 4 foot tall?
Yeah,
Okay.
that fly rod is I think it's a 7.5 foot 2-piece.
Okay.
So
this one, so what we're working on today is much shorter because Denny didn't want to hand sew all that again.
yeah. Right. But most people, nowadays, I mean, it's kind of a rule of thumb, 4-piece fly rod. Most people have that.
That's just the regular.
Because the long one's so hard to handle,
I don't know.
Well, it is.
I know nothing.
Take my word for it.
Okay, I will.
Okay. But anyway, this one is a piece of PVC pipe, and it is, let me see here. And this is just something that I had, and it is about 2-inch ID.
Okay.
Inside diameter. This is a piece of drain line, and it's a thin wall. Thin wall. Yeah, you can use a thick walled one, but it turns out heavier and more clunky, So that's why I picked this. But whatever kind of a tube you've got will work good.
Something that's water resistant would probably be ideal.
Yeah.
For the fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've cut this tube to length. And I cut a piece of leather here.
And what length might that be?
This one is actually, this will fit a 9-footer, and I made it 28 inches long.
Okay, so about 2-inch inside diameter and 28 inches long.
Yeah, that's what this one is. And I cut a piece of leather, which is a couple inches longer than that. It's 30 inches long.
Okay.
And I measured the circumference here, or the diameter, whichever one this is. And it's about 6.5 inches. So I'm going to give myself an extra inch on each side. So about 8.5 inches.
Because we're pulling right here, you guys can kind of see it. We're pulling up a seam and then you're hand sewing down this entire length across the tube.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and you want plenty, because when you pinch this together, you want plenty of room to do that with.
You want to give yourself some finger, something to hold on to as you go through. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now if you'll notice, on this end up here, I actually folded the top of this,
you want to go up?
The leather inside the tube, and it kind of makes a finished edge there. So on this end of the leather, I'm going to skive that down to a feather edge.
So you went like 2 inches down?
Yeah, but that's a little bit too far. That's one of the things I'm going to change on this one. I'm going to go just about an inch or so. And
now that we've got, you go ahead.
Yeah, on this end, I just made a cap that I glued onto the tube, and then went around there and I did a French box stitch around this edge, which I'm going to
French box stitch. That's going to be a new one for us, I think.
Yeah, probably. It's not hard to do. A lot of people steer away from it because they think it's hard, but it's not. It's not.
Denny's going to show you how easy it is.
Okay. Now on this, I marked this edge here that I'm going to skive off, and I've got a mark here on this edge because this is the approximate. When I wrap this around this tube, these two marks are approximately where it's going to match. Another thing I did was I marked myself a straight edge on this tube, because that's one of the hardest parts is to get this seam to lay straight, because it'll want to go like this if you aren't.
You don't want a snake seam?
No, it's not desirable. I mean, if it turns out that way, that's the way it is, you know.
You could spiral it up.
Yeah. The first one I made myself, I did have kind of a wonky looking seam on.
On purpose?
No.
No, okay.
But I learned from that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to dunk this in a bucket of water. We don't have to really show that. Just
He's got a bucket back here.
Take my word for it.
It's a blue Lowe's bucket.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not really going to saturate this. I'm just going to give it one quick dump.
And we're back. What's up?
What weight leather is that?
This is a 5 to 6 ounce. You can go with a 4 to 5 ounce. It'll show a lot more imperfections if you got 4 to 5 ounce. 5 to 6 is pretty good. Any heavier than that, it's a little harder to work with. So
that's a sweet spot.
Yeah. So I think a 5 to 6 is a pretty good weight. Okay. Another thing I want to show you, which we haven't worked with, is this safety beveler. This safety beveler. This is one that we sell here. This is one that we sell here, and this is one that I bought here years ago. But I am left-handed.
You are left-handed.
So I cut the end of this off and switched ends on it so I can pull it towards myself.
The safety beveler is one of the few tools that is not ambidextrous.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I could actually use this the way it is, like this. But it's so much easier for me to do it this way. But I'm just going to start kind of shaving this stuff off with the safety beveler. I could do this with my round knife, and I think I did it with my round knife on this other tube, but I wanted to show you guys that I could use one of these too. I'm versatile.
Like peeling a apple.
Yeah. It's just work easier if I do it on it.
You're messing up my organization there, Denny.
I'm so sorry. Abraham, we're sorry.
So, Denny, while you're skiving, we've got somebody that asked about a Tinkara rod. Have you ever fished Tinkara style? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. But I'm interested.
We'll Google it. And then, Paul said, or he maybe asked, yes, is a drainage hole on the bottom finished end a good practice?
I guess. I try not to drop my rod case in the water, but I guess it could happen. Maybe this isn't going to be airtight anyway. So the way I figured a drainage hole would be more for air circulation than anything. But you can have a hole on the bottom end. I guess that wouldn't hurt anything.
Maybe just dry your rod off before you store it.
Yeah.
You're not worrying too much about that far end because you're just going to roll it into the tube and
Yes,
nobody's going to see it.
That's right. I'm going to roll this in.
But you want it as thin as you can get it.
Yeah. You don't want a big, if you have it too thick right where it bends over the top of that tube, it will actually decrease the diameter that you're working with, and that's not real desirable to me. But anyway, I've got that. And I'm going to put that on the floor. They like it when I do that here. Okay.
Does that feel good?
Yep, that feels pretty good. You can feel it. It just, It's not perfect, but it's good enough for what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now then, the next thing I'm going to do is one of these lines, I'm going to bend this back about on that line and just kind of crease it there. And this will, you don't have to do this, I guess, but it certainly helps me to get a nice straight line when I glue this down. Because I've got a line on the tube itself. And I'm going to try and match this edge with that line. That'll make it straight, and then I can just pull the other side around and meet that.
Don't try to do it all at once.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a hammer and just tap that down. And this doesn't, if it's not right on your line, that's all right too, because this line is just kind of an outline guide. You just want it to be straight. All right, got that. Now let's set this aside.
Denny Razor Blades wanted us to tell you thanks for making this and sorry for making you design it.
That's all right. All right, now we're going back to our tube. And I cut 2 discs out of a piece of leather, a piece of heavy leather.
Yeah, that's thick.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this thick. I just wanted it to be this thick. One piece will actually be go on the inside.
Little plug.
Yeah, and the other piece will actually match the outside. And I pre-cut all this stuff because this is a pretty good process, and it'll take quite a while. So I wanted to have some of this stuff done.
It's okay, Denny. We forgive you for not cutting things out on screen.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now I'm just going to cement this because I'm going to glue that plug.
Abigail has to come say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Abigail. Glad to see you. Everyone else is too.
Aww.
Okay, so on the big plug, you did cover the whole thing in glue so that maybe it'll stick to that end of the tube a little bit?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and that way I won't have to re-glue it after I stick these together.
That sounds like a good idea. Make sure you get those edges real good.
Yeah. Yeah, because this tube is fairly thin, so there won't be much bearing surface to glue.
But it's not going to be a heavy fly rod case when you're done, which will be nice.
Hopefully it won't be. I'm just going to glue a little bit here on the inside, so hopefully that plug will have something to adhere to. And all you've got to do, this plug, all it has to do is stay on there till you get it stitched, because then it won't go anywhere. Okay, let's lay this back down. We'll lay this over here to the side,
Okay.
and this to the side. Let's go back to here. All right. You'll notice I've got a handle and a buckle and a strap. And this seems like kind of weird because I don't have the cap yet. but next week when we do the cap, you'll understand what this buckle and strap is about. But I'm going to make the buckle on the other side on this one we're doing today. That's one of the things I discovered.
Okay.
So I'm going to have the handle on this side and the strap on this side and the buckle over here.
Interesting.
So
why was that wrong?
Well, because it's not really wrong, but when you buckle it, thank you.
You're welcome.
When you buckle it, then this end's going to be down here by the strap.
Okay.
So
No, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Just little things you learn when you make stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, let me get a piece of polyboard down here, and I think, yes, I did mark this. Okay, what I've done is I've actually just kind of gauged this. I went around the tube and I gauged halfway around. So a point on one side and a point opposite on the other side.
Gotcha.
So when everything's put together, that's the way it will be. So I'm going to punch one slot for our buckle shape right here. And I'm going to punch, because I already marked these, so you guys didn't see me do that, but I did.
Was there anything specific about the location that you chose, or just a couple inches from the top?
Yeah, a couple inches from the top. It's.
I was gonna say, how far down is your cap gonna come?
Well, that's why I went a couple inches. The cap will probably be an inch or an inch and a half down.
Gotcha.
We haven't made it yet, so we want to leave plenty of room. You can make it however you want to.
And remember, when you're measuring on yours, that end is skived because it's going to roll in. So when you're measuring how far down from the top of the tube, you have to take into account that you've got an extra inch, inch and a half that you need to be measuring in addition.
This will actually be about the top.
Yeah.
Rather than up here.
Exactly.
So, and this slot down here is for the end of our handle. Now, I went ahead and stitched this handle and put this buckle shape together. I stitched this on a machine, and that's the only machine stitching we're going to do on this project. So I did it in the other room. Hope
Sure.
you guys don't mind.
They'll forgive you.
But anyway, let me punch these slots.
What size slot are you making?
This is a 3/4 inch slot. I've got a 3/4 inch strap here.
Perfect.
So I'm using a 3/4 inch slot. We always used to call these a bag punch. I don't know why. I guess because they use them to make bags. I don't know.
I think that's just what Osborne calls them.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. I've got that done. Let's see. This is probably ready to stick. Let me stick this.
Okay.
Well, I go back and forth a lot, you guys.
That's all right.
Okay, I'm going to try and center this very, very carefully. Stick that down.
And that's your end.
Now, I'm going to hope that this fits inside here. Yeah. I love it when a plan almost comes together. There we go.
Or you could just make a drum.
Yeah. That worked pretty good.
There we go.
All right.
Our tube is capped.
And I already stamped my cartouche on this end.
It'd be pretty hard to do it later.
Yeah. Now, if I was in the shop, I would take this to a sander and sand this off a little smoother, but it's going to work out just fine like it is.
Okay. Chevy Guy wants to know if the cap is going to hold the reel.
No, there's not going to be a reel case involved in this one. This is just a rod tube.
You have to put the reel in your pocket.
Yeah, put it or in your vest, carry it, or in your glove box or something.
Or in your fishing box.
Yeah. Okay, now let's rivet.
Denny, are you sure you don't want me to go sand that for you?
Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, let me, because you got one side that's a little bit fat.
Okay, now I'm going to locate this handle. And this is there's nothing real scientific or cut and dried about how long your handle needs to be. So I'm going to punch an 1/8 inch hole here for a rivet. You know, this is all about you guys learning how to make your own patterns and fabricate something yourself. Because if you hadn't noticed, I'm not going by a pattern on this. I'm just kind of winging it. And I'm going to use a number 12 copper rivet on this. And I knew I'd forget something. I think Liz probably already got this out somewhere. Ah, I forgot my nippers. Ah, there is a pair of nippers here. That was lucky. And you can use any kind of rivet. You can use a double cap rivet if you want. You can stitch this on if you want to. All right, that bottom end of that strap is down. And run the top end. And see, and that'll make it loop up about like that for your handle. I'm going to run this end back through. And this strap is probably, let's see how long it is. It's about 3 feet long, this strap, but it's longer than it needs to be. Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
How'd that? Oh, perfection.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, Denny. Denny made the most rookie mistake you could make
would,
as a leather crafter. Can I get you another punch?
no, I don't think I need one. I didn't hurt it that bad.
So the polyboard is right here,
Yes.
and this is the granite slab.
They're both white.
Yeah.
I'm
so,
confused.
So his punch is
Kind of blunt.
kind of blunt now.
A blunt punch.
Whoopsies. You're just getting in a hurry there, Denny?
I guess. Got excited. Well, that is a number 9 rivet in my number 12 box.
That's probably not going to go on that burr too well.
No. That's what I discovered. Okay.
Everybody watch your eyes.
I always like to kind of peen those over a little. Set them with the steel setter. All right, that's good there. Now let's put our buckle shape on. But let me put this back over here because I'm getting ready to punch another hole.
And this is why we should use the dark granite, apparently.
That's right. One reason, anyway. All right. I think this will still punch a hole. I can bulldoze a hole through
That's
it.
right. It's not as pretty, but it works.
It worked fine. Yeah. Let's see here.
Oh, Denny, remember that copper rivet setter that had the burr on the inside of the hole?
Yes,
Did
I
you get
do.
that out?
No.
No.
I messed with it one day and I thought, man, that thing's really in there.
Did you throw it away?
No, I didn't.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
I will use it for a trot line weight or something.
That'd be a really, I don't know.
All right, our strap and it's all ready for our buckle. Okay. Now let me see here. We got to do first thing first,
Okay.
as opposed to what I usually do.
Figuring out how to do those first things later.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't sand off my little edge that I figured you might bevel that off.
Okay, now I'm not going to glue this whole thing at one time.
All right.
I'm just going to glue about half of this tube on, and then we'll set it. I'm going to make myself a line across here. Got straight edge. This is about where I want this to fold over. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue from this line here, where I've creased this and folded it over. I'm going to glue this and just glue about half of it here. I'm just going to glue this part. And here, I'm just going to glue from here about halfway around. Because
right.
this is round, it's hard to set something round without
Yes.
getting glue everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I should get some more glue.
right here.
Do you have another thing? Ah, you're fine.
Okay,
Denny?
and I'm not going to glue all the way down here because this is longer than it needs to be too, because I'm going to trim that bottom end off.
That's what I was doing just now. You can take he made that top line, so that's where we're going to fold over the top. And you
Right.
can see about how far down it's going to come here. So we're got like an inch from the bottom.
Yeah. And this is, you don't have to be real precision with this.
It's all going to get covered up.
Yeah.
Denny,
That's what scares a lot of people. They think, oh man, I didn't get a very good line on that glue there. Well, you don't have to. You just got to get glue on it.
Denny, Paul wants to know if there's anything that you can put on a copper or, I assume, a brass rivet if you're using that one, to increase its longevity. I mean,
In reality, a copper or a brass rivet are the most long-lived rivets that are available to anyone. Stainless steel is too hard to use for a rivet. Regular a regular iron rivet will rust out. I
was gonna say the brass and the copper, they're gonna patina, but that's not gonna affect their the hold that they have.
Right. People used to bring me saddles that, the rivets would be green. It would be green all around them. That's just corrosion.
Cool looking.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You're not
looking.
done.
No, I'm not done. Okay. I thought I was, but I was talking. But yeah, that green doesn't hurt anything, and it cleans off pretty easily.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm just going to glue about halfway around here from this center line that I have marked. And even if you don't get halfway around, that's all right. But I'm just going to stick half at one time. That way I can make sure I get straight. Hopefully I can make sure I get straight. All right. Got that. And it's warm enough in here. It's not going to take that long to tack up, but I'm going to.
You don't have to bring your blow dryer anymore. I know. Stacy got us the blow dryer.
How wonderful is that? Thanks, Stacy. And it's not pink, so.
Nope.
I think that would be tacky enough right now.
Here we go.
That's pretty fancy, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to turn this around. I think it'll be easier for me to work with from this side.
Yeah, I think we need to add another loop here so that you can just stick, because a snap is too hard to get it out of.
Yeah.
We need a loop, Stacy. We need a loop
Okay.
for the nozzle right here.
Now I'm just trying to match this line to line here. That's pretty darn close. I'm just going to kind of mash around, try and make it adhere to the tube. And I'm using vegetable tan leather here because it's moldable. And if you'll notice here, there's a lot of places where it's not really up against the tube. Mm-hmm. But once I get it all the way around there and pinched together, I can mold it to the tube because you can actually shrink vegetable tan leather a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got your bone folder over there, sir, or maybe it's the wooden one. You're just going to rub it down.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's glue this other side. And I'm not going to get it real tight up against that line because I might want to do some adjustment there. I am going to glue leather itself. I mutter to myself a lot. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
That's okay. I do too. Now that I have to share an office with somebody, Chris will look at me and I'll be talking to my emails as I write them, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking to myself."
My wife does that when she's cooking. I'll be in the living room, and she'll be talking. I'll say, "What?"
Nothing.
She'll say, "I wasn't talking to you."
She's just talking to the dog.
She talks to the radio a lot.
Okay.
She listens to NPR,
Yeah.
and she will argue with people.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it's usually for a good cause.
Of course.
This is getting exciting, you guys.
I'm thrilled.
We've almost got a tube going here. This leather is wet, so this, if you were doing something that structurally needed to bear some weight or something, you'd probably want the leather to be dry when you cement it, but for what we're doing, this damp leather is going to work fine. And it sure makes it easier to work with. All right, here we go one more time. It's a darn fine hair dryer.
It's okay.
It's a lot better than the one we had. Okay, let me turn it around again.
It's a Conair Supreme.
Okay, now I'm just gonna roll this.
And he's on the roll.
Yeah. And this is the part you kind of gotta, it can be kind of challenging. I'm not gonna crease this side, but I am gonna bend it back because I don't want the edges to meet yet.
We don't want those things to be stuck together yet. Now, Denny, what do you think about doing this out of like a waxy oil tan leather that might be a little bit friendlier to your outdoor situation?
You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can use anything you want to. In fact, I thought about doing that, but then I thought, nah, let's use some vegetable tan leather. It might be a little more friendly to people. But the only thing is you can get rid of a lot of lumps and bumps. You can make it take more definition.
Right, with the veg tan.
Yeah, when you got damp veg tan, you can mold it better.
Let's see here. Chad asked if this was a tooled cover, it would be done before the gluing. Yes.
Oh yeah, your tooling would be done before we ever started anything we're doing today.
Yep, yep. I feel like if you're going to tool this, you have to make one that's not tooled first.
Yeah.
So that you have an idea of how you are going to go about it. Because the tooling is going to need to be precise, then you don't,
Yeah.
Your line is going to be ever more important.
Okay, now this is the part that I creased already, so I'm just going to take this rub stick and tickle myself a good line right there. Was that funny, you guys?
Yes.
All right. Let's tickle the other side.
That's so weird.
Now, I've got a pair of duckbill pliers here. These are actually candle pliers, but you can use any duckbill pliers you've got.
As long as they're smooth.
Yeah, You can get by without them if you don't have them, but you can sure make your edges nice and crisp this way. You can make that stitch line you're getting ready to do real precise.
Razor blades, my earrings are from actually a customer of ours that shops on our rock and jewelry side. She does like flame painting on copper. So these are little copper earrings that she's done some little flame here. I'll go up.
Girls are pretty.
Yeah. So that's what it is. I forget her name, but she does some really cool flame painting.
Can you hear this thing giggling? I'm tickling. Okay. Now, that line that I tickled, and that's a legitimate leather worker's target.
Okay. I'm gonna call Carrie Schwartz, but I'm gonna be like,
He'll know, he probably has a tickler. He'll say, yeah, I tickle my horn rims and all that all the time. And he'll say to you, what are you laughing about? All right, now I've got a number 5 overstitch wheel here that I'm going to use. And I'm going to start right at the end where it folds over up here. That'll be my first.
So right at the top of the tube?
Uh-huh. And right down here will be my last stitch hole. And this is the number 5 wheel, but I'm just going to stitch every other wheel because I don't want to put a real close stitch on it.
Sure.
I don't know if you can see this. This is the same wheel I used. 5 stitches, or that turns out to what, 2.5 stitches per inch?
Yeah, probably. It's pretty, it's kind of hard to see. It's a pretty long stitch.
Yeah.
But it looks good, actually.
Yeah, it looks pretty good on
Yeah.
something like this. I want you to call him. He'll be on my side. All right. Now I'm going to just take a diamond shaped awl, just a stitching awl, and I'm going to go through here and carefully
There.
stitch or cut every other hole. And okay, let me qualify myself here. Ordinarily, I would wait till this was bone dry.
Sure.
You will get a lot better results if it's dry, but you guys don't have time for me to stand here till this thing dries. So
That would take a few hours.
I'm going to do it while it's wet.
Denny, I don't know if you can kind of rotate just a little bit more towards this guy.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And hold your awl at the same angle every time, and you'll get a nice pretty stitch line out of it. A lot of times if this was something that I was going to do on a stitching horse, I would probably just punch my holes 1 stitch at a time. Make a stitch and then punch another hole. But
Could you sew this on a stitching horse?
you could. While it's wet though, it'll mark it up pretty bad. So,
Yeah.
So we won't.
I know sometimes it just starts to get really complicated to clamp it in a horse when it's got all these accessories everywhere.
Yeah, it gives you an extra hand is what it does.
Yeah.
But this will work all right.
I've definitely sit down while sewing this, and you just hold it between your knees after you get everything
Yeah,
punched.
that other one yesterday, I just had it on top of my tooling bench, and I just sit down there beside it, put one arm over it, you know. Worked pretty well. And this hand stitching, it doesn't take very long. Don't be afraid of hand stitching. You just do it. And thinking about it and dreading it takes longer than getting the job done.
Well, Well, it's nice that you've got that plastic tube underneath because that really gives you something to put your awl against
Right.
and then thread through. I think
Right.
if it was softer, it might be a little bit more complicated, but
Yeah.
it's sturdy.
And plus tickling that line in there, it gives it a definite slot to go in. It's almost like cutting a stitch groove along there.
Sure. Brandon, we are using 5 to 6 ounce. Denny did say that you could go down to a 4 to 5, but that might just be a little bit on the thin side for his preference.
Yeah, it will show a lot more imperfections. The lighter leather
Yeah.
will.
But he didn't recommend going too much heavier because it's going to make all this more difficult. So 5, 6 is your sweet spot. It looks like you're giving it stitches.
Yeah. I am. And see, when it's wet, I don't know if you can all see this, but I'm leaving little marks here with my awl.
Yeah.
Every time I go through it. But when it's all done, I'll go back with
He's going to retickle.
Yeah, I'll retickle. I'll go over it with that rub stick, and I can rub most of that out. Like I was saying, though, you're better off letting this dry before you actually do one of these yourself.
Yeah, glue it up before you go to bed. Come back to it the next day. It'll be
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah.
What I've realized about leather work is it's a lot of waiting
Uh-huh.
and then doing things, but then waiting for the time to be right for you to do said thing.
Yeah, and when we're in here doing something like this, we can't really do something else while our glue's drying or while our leather's, losing moisture. All we can do is sit there and tell you guys silly stuff.
Otherwise, we'd have to just twitch all day. This would be an 8-hour project while we
Right.
do something else and let it dry. So apparently Osborne sells a tool, Denny, called a tickler.
Yes.
Is that probably what it is?
Well, they call it a creaser.
Okay.
They sell one. And I'm not saying anything detrimental about Osborne, but their old ones used to work a lot better. The new ones you have to do a little bit of work on to get them to work really well. I've made them out of an old screwdriver before.
There you
An
go.
actual tickler, yeah. And it works well. Okay. This is ready to stitch. And I'm going to use artificial sinew here. I think it looks pretty good. And it is strong stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and get enough thread out here to do this whole thing without splicing.
Eric asked if you have a favorite stitching pony or horse. He's wanting to upgrade his soon.
I've got an old cavalry stitching horse that I've had for 30 years.
And it's 30 to 60 years older than that.
Yeah, like I said, it was an old cavalry.
It's a cool looking. Have we ever posted a picture of that? That would be a fun little post.
Yeah.
I don't.
Don't worry, Abigail. You don't have to look it up. You don't remember everything you've ever posted.
No. We did post an old photo of Denny one time sitting on a saddle, I think, that he made, and that's what it made me think of.
Gotcha.
He was sitting on the stitching board of me.
I think it was one of the saddles.
It was. It was on the stitching board. I'll see if maybe I can find it.
We did a hand stitching video quite a while back.
Oh,
And I think I was using it.
I remember that. I was here for that. Yeah, you were sewing through really heavy stuff. You're doing, I don't know, something.
Well, I forgot how to
Semi-complicated.
splice. I remember that. We'll do that next week. I had a brain freeze.
Eric, I don't think anyone in this room necessarily has a favorite one like on the market today.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Weaver Leather sells one that someone made. The easiest thing to do is just make one yourself. They look kind of complicated, but they really aren't. It's just 2 jaws. It just a vise, actually. But another thing, those stitching ponies that we sell here, I mean, sit down on a chair and you can do it.
That's what I use when I hand sew at home.
All right. Here we go, folks.
Paul, this is just our Craftmaster stitching overstitcher, and it was a number 5 wheel. You can use any stitching overstitcher that you want to use.
Yeah, however close a stitch you want to make it. You know, I used this number 5 and just
Did every
other stitch.
Yep.
The nice part about this artificial sinew, and any wax thread for that matter, when you pull your stitches up tight, if you're using an awl that's proper size, they'll stay tight.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
If you don't use a wax thread, your stitches want to loosen up every time you let go of them. So when you're pulling your stitch tight, you're actually pulling the 2 or 3 behind it tight.
Denny,
Yeah.
Razor Blades wants to know, what is your worst or most memorable stitching awl mishap? How badly have you stabbed your finger?
Oh, I've stabbed my finger a lot of times, but when you do that a time or two, pain is a good motivator, a good learning experience. You know, you figure it out. But the thing is, like when you're if I was using a stitching awl, I would be using it in this hand, and I would hold my fingers on each side of the hole that I'm poking it through. So, you know, when you get in a tight spot, though, sometimes it draws blood.
Just remember to put a Band-Aid on before you get before you get blood everywhere.
Project.
Our customers want our blood, sweat, and tears, but not necessarily visible.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and when you get done, you can always tell everybody, you know, hey, I bled for this.
That's right.
You guys owe me.
This is another $100.
Now, my goal was to get this stitched and get it trimmed before we're done today, but I don't know. I've still got 45 minutes. I think I can do it. Don't you?
I have faith.
Can you talk for 45 minutes?
Oh, I'm sure.
Wouldn't be
the first time. Let's see here. As long you guys just keep the questions coming, and we can just keep answering your questions.
Yeah.
So please involve us in your conversation today, if you don't mind. Let's see here. So we've got a question. Have you done a video that shows sewing machine thread sizes? I don't know if we specifically done a video where we've sat down and like changed out the thread and sewn different sizes right next to each other. We could probably post maybe a picture of that.
Yeah. And Melissa made a really good size chart for thread and needles.
Okay.
We could post that for them.
Yeah.
Maybe I can grab some of that information from her and do a social post.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad idea to do just a little stitch card that has the different sizes sewn on them.
I think that'd be awesome.
So we will write that down, sir. Thank you for the suggestion. Ooh. Oh. Denny,
Yes.
is there any chance of a saddle build series on a live chat
Oh,
or just on the live videos?
Gosh.
That seems like a lot.
yeah. I mean, because a saddle, even a plain saddle with absolutely no embellishment whatsoever, will take about 60 hours for me.
Well, I tell you what, in October, you've got your whole month because I'm not going to be here. So,
I'll just come in here every day for a month.
and just live stream.
I don't know it. You know, people have been asking about a saddle class again, and by the way, we have been the last week transferring my shop to a different room And my shop now has room for a classroom, and we have an actual sit-down classroom table.
We finally put you and Jeff in a corner.
Yeah, Jeff is there on an almost daily basis teaching classes for
Employees.
for our employees, getting them acclimated to all the products and hardware and stuff that we sell.
Yeah, we finally got our classroom going. It's moving. It's not 100% yet,
right.
but we're getting everything moved in. So,
But anyway, someone was asking me, people have been asking about a saddle class, and I really wasn't wanting to do one simply because Saturday has been the only day of the week that I could have access to
space.
the space, yeah.
There's a lot of us here.
But
all the
there
time.
might be a time in the near future or distant future when I could do another class. But that's all to be determined later. And if we do a class, I'm sure we'll be videoed in some way or shape or form.
Yeah. Okay, so Ben says, I have been trying to make a quilted leather journal cover and he's having a hard time stopping the puckering up on the inside fold. The puckering up on the inside fold.
Oh, when you fold something over, that's because it's further around the outside than it is around the inside. So if you're using the same length of material on the inside as you're using on the outside, it has to pucker because it's longer than the outside point when you make that fold. So the best way is when you're going to cement it, make your fold on the outside and then tuck the inside into that fold.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you cement it together.
Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question.
It's like our wallet kits. Everybody gets confused about those because the inside's always
Longer than
shorter than the inside. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the reason.
Ooh, I tell you what, explaining that to some people is difficult. They're like, these don't match. And I'm like, I know. It's right. Let's see here. Does SLC sell a comparable hand stitching thread to Tandy's Ritza thread? So the Ritza tiger thread, I know that Tandy sells it. I wouldn't call it Tandy's thread. It's the tiger thread. Our rhino thread is a braided waxed cord. So that's going to be the closest that we have. I do think it has more wax content than the Ritza tiger thread. So there's that. It's significantly cheaper than the tiger thread. We've used both. We really, I think we've had it for maybe a year now, Stacy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've had it for about a year, and honestly, I've only ever had one person with an issue pop up with some breakage, and that's all I've ever heard about. So I don't think that's bad at all. We've sold thousands of spools of it, and really we get pretty good feedback on it.
It's a synthetic thread.
It is. Mm-hmm.
I don't see how anyone can break it.
Yeah, it would be difficult. So not our tiger thread, our rhino thread's been really popular, and now we just maybe a couple months ago got it in a little bit smaller size. So now we have 1 millimeter and 0.8 millimeters. Correct? Everybody, Stacy.
Stacy's not here.
Oh gosh, Stacy. Sorry, I thought I saw his feet over there, but he's not. He just hand sews everything, and he's a big fan. Is that right, Chad?
So in the one, we have pretty much all the colors, and then the other one, we only have certain colors.
Okay.
The 0.08, I think.
We have a lot of them, don't we?
Yeah, there's quite
Okay,
a few, but
okay.
not all the colors that we have.
Not as many as the 1 millimeter. So Steve wants to know, Denny, if this could have been buck stitched.
Certainly.
Okay.
You will see how I finish this off, though. This will be a better alternative than buck stitching.
He wanted to know if you did buck stitch, what size lace would you use, and how would you determine that size?
If I'm using lace, I would use 1/8 inch lace to buck stitch with. if I'm using thread, I would use this artificial sinew buck stitch with.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, 1/8 inch is a common buck stitch size for lace. But like I said, this wouldn't be the way that I'm going to finish this seam here won't lend itself to being buck stitched.
So if you do that, you're going to have to finagle something, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you'll have to leave a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
Will be a lot more substantial, and your cover cap won't fit very nicely. And
I'm feeling like it's not recommended right now.
yeah, well,
Or not.
you know,
Denny's
you can
idea.
do anything you want to do.
Right.
But if you're asking me my opinion, that's my opinion. Yeah.
I suppose you could buck stitch up to the base of the cap and then
Yeah, and then
do something else that you can trim off shorter.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it work if you wanted to. Dean says that Denny knows what a Western money belt is. Ask him. Dean wants to make some.
No, yeah, someone thinks it would be a good idea for you to make one of those live, but most of us didn't know what that was.
I think we've discussed this several times.
We have.
One of these days.
Money belts are a thing. They pop up. Like once every 3 to 4 months, somebody brings up money belt.
Yeah. Thing about a money belt, it's got to be at least 1.5 inches, and you better be 1 3/4 or 2 inches wide.
And I just want to know who has all these gold coins that they're storing in their money belt anyways. I don't understand.
Yeah. Tell them to come talk to us in person.
Yeah.
And bring them gold coins.
We need to meet you.
Need to measure some coins.
Who are these outlaws that are still running around with gold coins on their person?
Yeah. Doubloons.
Maybe if somebody's got really fancy quarters.
Yeah. Well, you know, and people want to fold bills up and put in them, you know, and that's why they need to be fairly wide, because I mean, especially if you're folding up $1 bills, 40-inch belt with $3 in it.
I almost just feel like I'd sew an inside pocket to my outside pocket and I just put the money in there if I'm that worried about it. Maybe that's more awkward to get off when you're trying to pay things.
I think a money headband would be good.
Oh. A hippie headband and a Western belt.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you've seen it. Kevin showed me a picture of him in 1974.
Chris showed me this morning. I could recognize his forehead. I was like, that looks like Kevin's forehead. He's got a beard. He's got this curly mane that's down to his shoulders and all flipped up around.
And
it is
big
70.
black horn rim glasses.
Yeah, those are back in style.
It was awesome. Was he like sitting on a tractor or something?
No, he was
kind of like a skid steer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Kevin was cool in the 70s.
I'm sure Abigail's going to post it.
We're going to post that later. You keep a watch out, guys, for Kevin in his 20s. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Kevin and I are exactly the same age. He's about a month older than me, I think.
Oh, there you go.
So I told him I related to what he.
Denny, what was your hair doing in the 70s?
I had long hair.
Did you?
I did. I had much longer than yours.
Everyone's hair is longer than mine.
No, I had hair down to the middle of my back about.
Oh, wow.
I
So
did.
even longer than my longest hair in my life he had.
Yeah.
Did you have blonde hair, Denny?
Yeah, I worked construction at that time in my life, and I was outside all the time.
It was bleached, sun bleached blonde.
It always bleached blonde. Yeah. It changed. Now it's bleached gray. And Kevin, he just always been blonde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ron, if you give us, that's kind of a larger question Ron asked about the Aussie hat pattern, putting the sweatband in it. If you'll give us a call and talk to Clayton, he was the one that helped me put that pattern together, so he can kind of walk you through putting that sweatband in. It really, so the sweatband sews just in, like whenever you do that final sew around the brim and the crown of the cap, the sweatband sews into that seam if you're going to put one in. So give us a call, talk to Clayton. He would love to help you through that. Well, Denny, you're just coming right along.
Yeah, I'm about there. I think I'll be able to get it trimmed.
I have faith.
I want to do this week because I'll have to do it while you guys aren't watching. Otherwise, because it'll dry and things won't work right. The end cap. I guess I could wet it back up. I won't need to. I'm gonna get done.
You're almost there. You got it. Eric asked if we have a video that shows the differences between the classes of sewing machines. I believe Rusty and Kevin did a sewing machine for dummies video that goes over the different options. So it's a couple years back. But if you'll just scroll through our video log there, we definitely have several sewing machine videos that will talk about the differences. At this point, mostly, I mean, you either want a flatbed all the time, and for that I would recommend the Class 20. The 318 is okay. It's just it's a lightweight machine, so you don't have a lot of versatility with it. You're going to sew wallet interiors together, lightweight products only with the 318. The Class 20 will do. It has the same capacity. It'll sew lightweight up to about a 1/2 inch of leather, just like your Class 26, but it's a flatbed. The 26 is a cylinder arm that will cylinder arm. That was right. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. That will sew thin up to, 5/8, a 1/2 inch, pretty happily. So good, lightweight to mid-range products. If you are sewing strictly heavy duty items, if you're doing concealing carry belts, holsters, tack of any kind, you want to look at the 3 and the 4. So, or the King Cobra if you just really think that you need 25 inches of maneuverability.
Yeah.
I've only known like two people to ever buy one of those. The thing is huge.
Yeah.
We got one in and it was like this long. It takes up so much space. And I was like, who needs to put I don't know, you can.
Well, if you're making truck tarps or teepees or something like that.
I mean, if you need super heavy capacity and 25 inches of throat length, then the King Cobra is there for you.
Yeah, capacity-wise, it's no heavier really than
the 3 and the 4. Nope.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's, pretty similar. Eric, the Rhino thread, awesome. I'm glad you've been enjoying the Rhino thread. At this moment, I don't believe that we have plans to go lower than 0.08. I don't really know if we've had too many suggestions for it. So, we can always put that on the radar and see what we can come up with if we've got people that are looking for it. So we will make a note. I know a guy, he makes knife sheaths and, no, he doesn't. He makes knives, and sometimes he'll make a sheath for his knives, but he makes some of the most beautiful knives in the world. And he will take, not our Rhino thread because it's braided, and so you can't take it apart, but he'll take our regular wax sewing thread that is twisted. And if he needs thinner, he will untwist the strands and then take like one strand out at a time. So like if he's doing like a delicate inlay that he wants a fine stitch line for, he'll untwist all of those strands. He'll like tie it up to a drill and twist it the wrong way until he gets his pieces apart. And then he'll use that one strand of thread and sew up his little delicate parts. And then he'll, use the full strands for the rest of it. And I was like, Kyle, that's dedication. But then, I've done it a few times because I was like, that's actually a really good idea.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention, you got to do what you got to do to make things work right.
Razor Blade says he'd like to see you make a holster for a Colt 1851 to go with the gold coins.
Actually, I'm not sure if it was a Colt 1851, but it's an old Captain Ball pistol that I made a holster for a couple of years ago. Okay, I'm just going to backstitch here.
So Charlie, I'm assuming, asked about what the lowest speed setting is for the Class 26. So all of our sewing machines are fitted with servo motors and speed reducers, which means you can turn the servo motor to where it won't go any faster than like the lowest setting. I don't know exactly what that RPM is, but with the lowest setting. But what the speed reducer allows is that when you push that pedal, you can drive that machine like a car. So the lighter you push on the pedal, the slower the needle goes, no matter what speed necessarily you've set the machine at. And so you can literally, if you watch some of our videos that we've done where we're using one of our sewing machines, you can just lightly tap on that and you can move the needle up and down as slowly as you want to make that stitch. And so it's not like, that's what's so incredible about the speed reducer servo motor combination. A lot of times they just have that servo motor on them. You hit it and it's just whatever speed you've set it at, that's how fast you're going. But that speed reducer allows you to have that torque no matter how slowly you want that needle to go. So you can take that class 4 and you can walk it through like 3/4, 7/8 inch leather and it'll just go back up and then just down and it'll punch through each one of those holes. It's really a pretty magnificent thing.
It is. You can, you'll get bored watching it stitch as slow as you can make it stitch. You'll say, man, this is too slow.
Sometimes going around tight corners, like you want to be able to do that one stitch. It'll kind of come back up. You make a little bit of a turn. You'll do another one. You make a little bit of a turn. What was I sewing the other day that I sewed just ridiculously slow? Oh, probably going around. I did a camera strap and just those strap ins going around where it cupped or I had my little housing and I just walked it right around that little arch that I needed to go through. I did that on a 26. So last week, camera strap. You can watch me sew around a camera strap, and that's probably, I don't know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit heavier, 1/4 of an inch of leather.
Guaranteed they will go as slow as you need them to go.
Yeah. Let's see here. If the 26 can sew 1/2 inch 5/8, how?
Everybody that wonders how slow a machine can go has probably cut their eye teeth on a clutch motored machine.
Yep.
You know, which is on or off.
That's right. You're either in the race or you're sitting on the sidelines.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm done stitching. Now let's trim this thing off.
Let's look at this really fast. Look at that stitch line. All the way down to the end here. Okay.
What does the other side look like? Did I get halfway straight?
Yeah, no, that looks great.
All right. Now I'm going to take my wing dividers here and mark myself a pretty close trim line. Probably 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to follow my stitch line with that wing divider. Okay. I'm going to take a French edger here and start at this end. You just want to take your time because you don't want to cut your threads. I'm just holding on to this end and actually pulling, making tension there, pulling it away from what I'm cutting. Also got to watch your French edger that you aren't holding it at an angle. Because if you're holding it at the wrong angle, you can be perfect on top and cutting every stitch on the bottom.
That would be a sad day.
Yes, I've had those sad days. All right.
There she is.
That's cut pretty well. Now I'm going to take this, what we call a common edger. I'm going to start with the number 3 and see what that looks like. But I'm going to try and round this seam off.
So, Denny, what was your favorite band when you were in your 20s?
Oh. I don't know. I probably band people have never heard of. I really love Pure Prairie League. I don't know if
Pure Prairie League.
I like the Birds too.
Okay.
The Birds were cool.
I like the Birds too.
Yeah. I saw several concerts. I saw Fleetwood Mac. I saw Bob Seger. Saw Joe Walsh. He was with the James Gang. Broke a plexiglass guitar on stage that just shattered and went all over the audience. I'm surprised people didn't bleed to death over that deal.
But I bet they loved it.
They did. They did. Like I say, be very careful when you're doing this that you don't cut so deep that you cut your stitches.
So you want to leave yourself some room when you trim it off to round out this section here.
Yeah, I made myself an 1/8 inch line. I'm actually trimming it down closer than that. You can see up close.
We're right on that
See how
stitch.
close I am?
Yeah.
On both sides, I'm about like that. Now, and I forgot to bring a burnishing cloth or anything to burnish with.
Oh, you didn't bring your little burnishing
No,
bin?
I forgot it. We've got Tokenol. How will that be?
It'll be okay.
I'm just going to burnish this a little bit.
While you burnish, somebody asked about, buying a 26 for making holsters. And depending on the type of holster that you're making, a 26 would definitely be capable of doing it. I don't know if you're going to get a huge Western belt drop,
Yeah, with a big, thick welt
Yeah.
in it.
My only thing, and it depends on what you want to make in general. Like, is holsters and heavier what you're looking at, or is it holsters and wallets or lighter weight things? Because a 26 will do holsters. However, you do not have the same capacity for thread weights. So I know a lot of times people want a heavier stitch line on their holster because they like the look of that. They want that kind of hand stitched look. You can only go up to a 207 on your 26. So if you want to use a 277 or a 346 on your holster, that's going to mean that you have to kind of look at your machines differently. But I always tell people, like, buy the machine for what is going to make you money, like what is going to be your bread and butter of what you're producing.
Yeah, what you're doing most.
Yeah. Or what you want, like, to be doing, like, and then make the decision between a 26 that is a light to medium weight versus that heavy duty class 3 or class 4. Trimming your little overlap.
Yeah, this is the part that I'm going to fold in, and I'm just kind of trimming a little bit back off of this, because when I fold it in, there again, the inside's going to be shorter than the outside. So I've got to get rid of a little material. Let's see what it looks like when I fold it inside. Yeah. That'll be about right.
Looks like
I'm still going
the
to.
back of your head.
That's what people wanted to see, isn't it? Yeah. Our seam, I'm about right on it, but I would imagine that after, when I glue it down, I'll have to French edge some of these wrinkles out. We'll find out right now.
All right, let's do it. Are we gonna glue?
Uh-huh. We're gonna glue. And I'm just gonna stick my brush down inside the tube and glue it about 1.5 inches down there to match the length of what we have.
You filled up your glue pot.
I guess. I think it might be laying in an angle or something. And there again, this isn't going to structurally hold anything you know, keep it from falling or pulling away or anything. This is just superficial what we're doing right here. Just kind of a finished edge. Okay, let's let that dry.
Here.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna come down here and trim this off, this other end, and I'm gonna do it with this same edger. I'm not gonna cut this off. I'm gonna trim it off with an edger. And that's another thing. If you use much heavier leather than this, you can't. It'd be hard to trim it off with an edger.
That's a pretty wide. That's just an Osborne edger, is it not?
Yeah, this is an Osborne Common edger. This is a number 3.
Okay. And we're only working with 5 to 6 ounce here, so.
Right.
Maybe I should have beveled that first.
And this is pretty darn perfect, you guys.
Denny is satisfied.
You don't need to believe me. But it is. Things don't always work out as you plan, but this got pretty good.
Yeah, that looks nice.
All right. I'd say this is dry enough to stick. You just kind of got to work it down in there and make sure you get it right to the edge of your tube. Okay. By golly, I'm not going to have to trim anything off. That was a joke I was telling you guys a while ago.
Well, sometimes before you get it actually stuck down, you're going to have those bubbles and it's probably going to look like you're going to have way too much material.
Yeah.
But then once you actually get it kind of in the tube and stuck to the whole perimeter of the tube, especially because you've got it skived so thin.
Yeah.
It's squish.
Plus, it's vegetable tan leather
Yeah.
that you can shrink.
You can shrink it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can we see what we've got on the inside there? That's pretty darn good.
That looks great.
And you guys, I'm not going to do this French box stitch today. I'll do it next week
Okay.
when we come back, because that'll take a while and I don't want to hurry that.
Sure.
Because you kind of want to take some pains when you're doing it. And because I got to do this end, I'm going to do the French box stitch, and we're going to build the cap, and we're going to have a French box stitch on it also.
Ooh. So we're getting fancy next week.
Yeah.
We're going French. And then we should eat some spaghetti.
Okay.
All right. Lastly, David asked if the moccasin build is on the schedule yet. That's been.
I haven't seen the schedule yet.
We're working on that schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all righty, guys. Well, you guys have a great weekend. We will be back next week with something fun, I'm sure. And then Friday, Denny will be finishing this, as always.
Yeah.
So, have a great weekend.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye.